Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Reason We Learn. I'm your host, Deb Philman. At The Reason We Learn, we aspire to be part of the solution. The purpose of this show is to take a good, honest, potentially painful look at the way kids are being educated. We know we can do better, and this is where we'll talk about how. Let's learn something. Hello, welcome to The Reason We Learn. Thank you so much for joining me today for a conversation with Scarlett Johnson. I can talk. If this is your first time here, I hope you'll consider subscribing so you can be notified when I make new content, especially live shows like this one, because the goal is for this to be a meeting place, a sort of town hall where people can, work on improving education and hearing from others who are trying to do the same, as well as hearing from people with interesting perspectives and stories about their own education or their opinions about education, even if they're not directly involved. As I've said many times, we all have skin in this game. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk to Scarlett, who is with Moms4Liberty. She's running for school board. She's a mom I met at the summit last week. And she has an interesting story to tell about her own evolution from mom to activist. And we are going to hear from her when she's able to get the technology sorted out from her computer. So in the meantime, what I would ask is if you would please share, again, please consider subscribing to the channel, and, get ready with any questions that you might have for her about being a parent activist. Now, I want to preface this by saying, as I've said also on the channel and to other people who've asked me, just because I say you have skin in the game doesn't mean I think everyone can or should be an activist. It takes a particular kind of temperament, skill set, desire, and ability and willingness to be exposed. You do have to expose yourself, your name, your face. You're going to be out there up front, maybe running for school board, attending school board meetings, putting your name on things. It's difficult to be an anonymous activist. I mean, there are people who've done it, but it tends to be more effective and credible when you have, your face, your name. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody can do that. There are really good reasons that a lot of people feel like I'm either my particular role in the world is going to bring too much unwanted attention on this effort that has nothing to do with the effort. It could be that your skill set is not necessarily public speaking or being out front, but it's in creating, it's writing, it's in producing, it's in artwork, some kind of marketing or PR, anything like that. It could be research. Your form of activism could be behind the scenes, digging around. Maybe you're a person who, is at home, or you're stuck somewhere where you really can't go out and do things. You can do research, or maybe you only have nighttime hours and during the day you are heads down working. That's what you can do. So when I say that we can all be involved, I mean, find your niche, find the thing that you feel comfortable doing, that you feel capable of doing. But even if you're a homeschooler, try to carve out some time to do it, even if it's small, even if it's just supporting the people who are doing it, for you, because they need help liking, sharing their content, broadcasting it out, because we have to sort of force multiply. We don't have the dollars. We don't have the numbers that the people we are working against have. They have huge money. They have Gates money. They have Zuckerberg money. They have Soros and Schwab money. They are always going to have a greater capacity to get their message out or to silence ours. And of course, they own the institutions. People are going to quibble with the word own. Okay, dominate the institutions. And that includes the government, by the way. So we also have to get creative with using our freedom and using our freedom of speech in ways that are going to be very difficult to censor without it being super noticeable that that's what they're doing. So, and you need to hear from Scarlett, but we are still, okay, I've got to get her a new link so she can get in. Okay. 1 second, guys. Sorry about this. Stuff happens. Trying to get the link here. It's kind of a pain because with StreamYard, you have to use Chrome or Firefox. So for those people who are on iPad or Mac, sometimes if they don't have it downloaded, it's kind of stuff happens. In the meantime, I want to welcome people who are here. Thank you so much for coming. And yes, wiki snippet. That's right. My name is Scarlett Johnson. I'm running for the Mequon-Thiensville School Board, and she is not to be confused with Scarlett Johansson. Okay. Although I will go on record saying she's equally beautiful and equally intelligent. So actually smarter, but it can be confusing. When I first saw her name, I kind of did a double take because it does look the same, but we're just trying to get the link. Do you guys? Yeah, well, thank you, H3 Bomb, for being here live. I appreciate that. If it's your first time live, I do these live. A lot of people have asked me, why do you do all the interviews live? And then you have the replay right up there. What's the scoop? I do it because I want this. Like I said, yes. Hi, Ron. I do this because I want the interaction. Now, that doesn't mean I can always respond to every question or every comment. I'm hoping you guys are interacting with each other, sort of like town hall style, but I do try to get the questions and the comments in as we go. Yeah, this is challenging with getting this done. So another thing I want to mention real quick is about running for school board. I've said on this channel before that I think it's a waste of time, because I think, the school boards don't decide curriculum. They don't decide these things, right? And one of the things I learned at the Moms4Liberty Summit is, while that's true, like nothing I said about what they do and how they work is false. The replay doesn't always work. The replay of the chat, I think it takes 24 hours, but it's always selected. I do select that it should replay. So I've given it permission to replay. If it doesn't, it's probably too soon. So that's the only flaw of the, replays up, but the chat replay is not always up. So I do try to put links that we discuss in the chat. I do try to put them in the description. If I forget, hit me up on Twitter and say, you forgot. Where's the link? I don't have a producer, you guys. If anyone wants to volunteer to be my producer, feel free. But I don't have one. So I'm the one and only reason we learn. So then what I learned about the reason for running for school board, I learned from the summit. I also learned it from our good friend Candace. Okay. So if you didn't see my interview with Candace, you are going to want to go see that about activism. What I learned is that the campaign itself gives you a big platform to educate people about the issues. And then even if you lose, they still know who you are. Maybe you win again next time, or they come to you instead of the school board for information, because now you're sort of a public figure because you ran. So there's value in running because it gets you that platform. The second thing is that the school board does choose the superintendent, hires them and fires them, puts them under pressure to resign if they're really screwing up. And they in turn hire and fire principals who hire teachers and so forth and so on. So you do have say in that. And you have a say in how the budget is spent, because that's what they do. Now, I've also said that the school budget that you get to oversee when you're in the school board is not everything coming into the school. These NGOs and other, nonprofits, the Gateses and the Zuckerbergs, they're pouring money into these school districts and sending material into the school districts right around you when you're on the school board. So that's why keeping your eye on the ball as a parent activist, or kind of helping your school board members by educating them as far as what you see. So maybe they can fight back on their end. Now they're not judicial and they don't really have a lot of power. That would be more for your state level Board of Education to put some restrictions on what can and cannot come into the schools from the outside, even donated, right? So, but you still need to be on top of it. You cannot lean on your school board to do it all for you. They are an important body, especially when it comes to like masking and vaccination policies, safety policy, what you're going to spend on, security guards and all that stuff. But you can't, you can't lean on them too completely. They can't do it all for you. And so I kind of modify what I said before. if you're comfortable campaigning, you're a good public speaker, and you want to be that person out front, then running for school board is important. And you will get to vote on this stuff. It's just that you don't necessarily get to like caucus or collaborate with other school board members, because once you win, you can't talk to more than one other person without it being public. That's just how they operate. So, and of course, school board members do control the public comment rules and so forth. And we all know that what you get to say in front of the school board is also picked up on the television and news media. So that creates another platform. So your school board itself can create a platform for parents. But I just don't want anyone to be under the illusion that you replace all the school board members and suddenly you can replace the curriculum, or you replace all the school board members and suddenly you can, fire all the teachers or something. Like it didn't work like that. So that's the caveat. But I do think there's value in it. So let me just check on my guests here. I am sorry to her and to you. I'm going to try to text the link. I mean, it's hard because you got to then have, if you have an iPhone, way to go, Mac, way to go, StreamYard. Could you maybe have these things work on Safari? That would be really helpful. Anyway, do you guys have any questions right up front about any of this or anything for that matter? Anything at all? Let's see. H3 Bomb says, ran for BOE and came up as runner-up, got one conservative on though, which is helpful. And as you said, I got my local county voters' attention. Can use that attention as leverage to share stuff now. Yes, it is so important to capture that attention. Because you, let's see if I can get this to her. Okay. Paste it, because they don't want you in the press. Or if you get there, it's twisted, isn't it? They take you out of context. They start with accusing you of something that isn't true. Straw man arguments like, so-and-so doesn't want children to learn about history. This person doesn't want people to stay well and not die, or whatever their issue is. They're going to say bad things. Okay. So, when you have your own campaign, thank you, Mark. When you have your own campaign, you can run your own website. You can run your own social media. That's one thing we learned from Candace. You can have really innovative social media campaign, and you can reach people, and they'll see, candidate for school board. You can even keep that title, former candidate for school board. Isn't that cool? Kind of like former candidate for president, former candidate for, we've seen them do that all the time. So, go for it. Just the candidacy alone puts you on people's radars. So I think it's definitely worth doing. And I used to say, like, don't do it, put your money and your energy into other things. And, I still stand by that if you aren't comfortable with this being it. So as long as you're realistic about what it is and what it can do, and you're not going to get frustrated, and you're not going to sit there thinking, I got on here to make a difference and I can't make a difference, that, sitting here in these meetings, because remember, it is a thankless job and you don't get paid for it in most places. I think there's some places that pay like something, but for the most part, it's volunteer. You got to show up and spend nights, long nights sometimes, doing this stuff, maybe after work or after with your family. You take a lot of heat. You're going to be covered in the media. They're going to say things about you don't like. It can be a really thankless job, no matter which side you're on. Okay. And people are going to blame you for everything. Am I running another? Unwelcome. Yes, I thought he was too. It was 10 o'clock. Maybe he's done. Anyway, so if you're comfortable with spending that amount of time for a term and slogging it out of just sitting there and waiting for it to be your turn to vote, or waiting for other people to pontificate, or waiting for parents to get done screaming at you as if like every person sitting there is equally guilty of every bad thing in the school, like everything they don't like, the quality of the school lunches is crap and it's like your personal fault, like if you're okay with that level of abuse, then go for it. Because that's part of the job too. But, just as long as you know what it is. And that's why people like Scarlett, who do know what it is and are prepared to do it and are prepared to do all the campaigning and everything, are heroes in my book, because they're taking it on with 5 kids, no less, with 5 kids. Thank you so much, Dr. Lamoureux. Am I saying it right? Lamoureux? Lamoureux? I took 7 years of French. I should know how to say it properly. So let's see. So she said she was able to figure out how to get in there, but the camera wasn't working. Huh. Let's see. Did y'all catch the dissident dispatch from yesterday? Did you, by any chance? I'm still thinking about some of that stuff. It's just craziness, absolute craziness. If you didn't catch that show, I would recommend go back and watch it, because, or at least, in parts. It's 90 minutes. They're going to be 90-minute shows. And I know that's a lot to ask for people to sit and watch. And it's not something I can put on a podcast per se, because like Audible, because you have to sort of see the visuals that I'm showing. But you could watch it in spurts. I guess I might try to make chapters out of them. But again, one person, no producer. So some of the things out there, and this is what like Scarlett is trying to beat back, is like keeping up with it is really hard. So think about your current school board members, or that might be aligned with you, or even if they're not. Okay. Let's say they're not. Let's say they ran as a Democrat, but you've gotten the impression watching them that they're just sort of a mainline Democrat from, whatever. Like they're not aware one way or the other of what's going on. Consider the possibility, just consider the possibility that they have no idea how bad this stuff really is. Because remember, school board members don't have any more permission to go into the classroom than you do as a parent. It's not like they're the boss of anybody. They can't just go down to the school on any given day and waltz in and go, I just want to see what's going on in here, what you're doing. They don't have access to your kids' Chromebooks. They don't have any more access to the data that's being collected than you do. They're not a judicial branch. They're not a supervisory branch. On the org chart, they're not above anyone except the superintendent. And even then, they have to vote to get rid of that person. So, and it's, it's a process. There's a contract involved. It's not that easy. So assume benign intent. They may not know, and you can educate them. As long as you approach it rationally and reasonably, you may find that you can reach them. So just consider it. All right, let's see how this works. Scarlett, can you hear me? It's like I can see her down there, but not up here, and she's frozen. Can you hear me? I can hear you tapping away. I just can't see you. Scarlett? Uh-oh. Yeah, it has to be Chrome. That's the problem. Right, I'm telling her. And one of the things that I hope to do in my shows is give you enough education that you guys can do this, that you guys can go forth and teach other people how, what's really going on. Let me just ask her. Okay, so let's see. Our BOE members do visit the schools, and even school staff is blasted about their presence at times being there to support them. So is that the local school board or the state board? The state board members can go anywhere they want, anytime. Anytime. They can do like whatever they want. They're pretty, it's like saying the governor could come to your school anytime they want. I mean, they're not the governor, but they are typically appointees of either the governor or the legislature. I think in some states you'll have a couple of members who are appointed, but they're local and they're able to do they have to get any permission first, or they're just given blanket permission? Now, let me reframe what I said. When I said they're not allowed, I meant they don't automatically have permission unless the schools have given it to. Now, it is very possible if everybody's on friendly terms, 100%, let's say, as an example, the politics align. The principal, the superintendent, the school board, the teachers, everybody's on the same team. Oh yeah, of course, they're going to love to have them come in and support them, and they're going to brag about it. But if there's conflict, you can almost bet that they're going to pull rank, or it's not rank. They're going to say, you don't have any, you don't have any automatic permission to come. You have to fill out the forms, do the background checks of any other visitor. They don't consider them school officials by law in most places. They just don't. And again, it varies by state, but a lot of people mistakenly assume that they have this like almost police authority, that they can just show up at the school, walk in any classroom, any time of day, and stuff. So it's you're thinking I think they have to give notice. I just recall my opponents talking about sometimes going in to check on folks. Yeah, political alignment, they're not worried. The notice could be like, "Hi, I want to come down to the school." Sure, no problem. But they have a lot of power about who they let in the building. And they can fall back on protocol if they want to. And if the standard protocol, which is also set by the school board, safety protocol is set by the school board. So, there's that. If the standard safety protocol is everyone that comes in the building has to fill out a visitor form, wear a tag, have a license, have a background check on file, whatever. And some schools do have that. When I volunteered to be a reading tutor, I had to jump through some hoops of fire. I mean, I'm not complaining. I was a parent in the school, but if I'm going to have access to other people's children one-on-one, I should have a background check. I didn't balk at that. That's fine. So, because I'm going to be sitting with this child alone, either in a separate classroom or in the hallway or even in the corner of a room. I mean, who wouldn't want a background check for that person, right? Why is this person doing that job? So I went through the background check, and you go through it. I think they make you go through it every year, brand new or something. In my district anyway, because, stuff could happen. But you have to renew that credential. And then when you come in, you still have to sign in. What time are you in? What time are you out? Wear your tag, sign in with your driver's license. This is what I had to do. And those procedures were set by the school board. So the school board members fall under the same thing, even though they decided the protocol. So now if they add into the protocol, except school board members, we can waltz in anytime we want. We're presumed to be background checked. But just as a note, most school board members are not background checked before they're school board members, unless the media does it. There's not a procedure that I'm aware of. Again, could be at the local or state level. They might have rules about that. But generally speaking, it's not, don't assume is what I'm saying. Don't assume somebody sitting on my school board was background checked. They don't have a criminal record. Don't assume that. They might not, but don't assume the local media is going to find out if they do or don't, unless of course they don't like your politics. Then they probably will. Don't assume that they don't have an ulterior motive of just hogging up space and taking up a vote, even though I have no intention of changing anything, because they're a union member. In a lot of places, union members are allowed to be on school boards. Don't assume that they, for example, let's say you live in school district A, but you teach in school district right next door to that one. You can run for the school board where you live, even though you teach right next door in their place, and you're a member of the union that runs the whole deal. You're a teacher. You're in the same state. You're in the same county. So the likelihood that you're using the same materials, the same everything is 100%. Okay. I mean, pretty much 100%. So no ulterior motive. Come on. And I personally don't think that should be allowed. I don't think that currently teaching teachers should sit on their, even the one where they live. I don't think members of unions should sit on school boards. I don't think unions should be able to finance school board campaigns. I think that any financial disclosures should include money coming from unions, and it should be broadcast like skywritten. The union is putting this person in place, because it's completely self-serving. The absolutely biggest circle, There is. Shouldn't be allowed. Just shouldn't be allowed. I, I'm against teachers unions, as everybody knows, because I think that there is no management they're working against. They're working against the taxpayers who make their jobs possible. They're working against average people, and that's just wrong. It's like having a government within the government, and a lobbying group and a money laundering operation for a political party that it just should never have been allowed to happen. Even FDR, one of the biggest socialists we ever had sitting in the Oval Office, was opposed to public sector unions with good reason. With good reason. This is what happens. They just destroy everything they touch. So, we're still waiting. I don't know. I might have to call it, but I don't want to do that. So yeah, and this is all should have background checks before being with kids. Totally agree. Totally agree. By the way, that's a reason a lot of people have asked me, why are you against cameras in the classroom? I figure I've got you here. Might as well tell you why. I'll end up having to change this thumbnail after I'm done, but here goes. I'm against them because I think our kids first of all, it increases the size of the surveillance state. So on principle, I don't think the state should own any more surveillance equipment over the people. Okay. And people say, what about police? Cops are wearing, these body cams over. And it's state employees wearing them because every interaction they're going to have could potentially result in death. They are authorized to use lethal force. It's a little different. They're also not on all the time surveilling the general public as to their comings and goings and what they're doing, and then storing the data. Like they turn them on when they go out of their vehicles or their office or whatever to have an interaction, and then they turn them off. And we already see how hard it is to get that footage released. Oftentimes people say, but it's helped exonerate people and it's helped prove this. And as many times as that, it's also not done that. It has confused things. It has created havoc in terms of like the media. It has, made, I won't say it's made it worse, but I think that it's been oversold as how much better it's made things. I still think they're a good idea, but I don't think they're comparable. My point is, I don't think it's analogous. These are children. These are minor children. And when you put them in a position where they know they're being surveilled, now, whether it's recorded footage or a live feed, I still think the same thing. It's still the surveillance state. The state. The parents have no way to opt out of their kid being surveilled, and they don't know where is the data going, who has access to it. So, and then try to get it back from them so that you can see what's going on. Now, if it's a live feed, well, now you're violating everybody's privacy. I'm not talking about the teacher. You might say, oh, the teacher doesn't have a right to privacy. I'm not even going to go there. Some would argue they do, as far as being surveilled constantly. They don't work in a prison. So, I mean, if you'd like to enhance the perception that some of us have that schools are prisons, knock yourself out. I personally don't want to go that direction, but the kids don't have a choice but to be there. They can't quit and go find another job. Their parents made the choice for them. They're a captive audience. So now they're being surveilled. People behave differently when they're in their surveillance environment. They know they're on camera. It will literally change their behavior. And it gets them accustomed at a very young age to being surveilled. Is that the direction we want to go? Not to mention the feeds going into parents, homes or computers, and you're going to trust that it's really only the parent has access to that and recording hours and hours of little kids doing whatever it is they do in a classroom. And then what if they decide to capture some of that footage and potentially use it against your child? What if another child is home watching it and does that? Do we really need more footage of our children to be misused? And then you got to chase it down and stop somebody from cyberbullying your kid? Like anonymously, perhaps? So I don't know. Too many cameras. You're not going to do what you think you're going to do with them. You're just not. You're not, first of all, a lot of it has to be the sound, not what you're going to see anyway. The sound captured on those things is not so very great. not high fidelity, especially if there's a lot of commotion and shoving and moving and desks and this is and that's. It's not a perfectly silent little classroom where only the teacher is speaking and you can hear every word they say perfectly clearly. Okay. You're going to find more just surveilling their Chromebook when they come home and going in and having a face-to-face meeting with the teacher, which brings me to the next point, which is if you have so much fear that you need to watch the teacher all the time, what they're teaching, what's going on, and what's going on in the classroom and watch the other kids, maybe you need to remove your kid. First of all, you got a lot of time on your hands. You could be homeschooling. So there's that. Secondly, it's like what you would say to a friend is, I think my husband's cheating on me. I think I'm going to put a camera and I think I'm going to hire a private investigator. I think I'm going to do this. It's like, maybe you should just file for divorce. Like if you have so little trust in your relationship, that's a huge red flag. What are you going to do when you find it? So let's say you prove it's nothing. Well, now you get all this money that you spent and there's nothing to find. Or maybe you're going to still question it because maybe the person is sneaky and is very good at avoiding being caught. Are you ever going to really believe it? Or now you found it. What are you going to do? I've been sneaking around following you and this is this. And what if they have an excuse? What if they have an argument? Now you just look like a paranoid delusional and you might have completely ruined your relationship, etc. So if you don't have an end game for what you're going to do with it, I'm going to sue. Oh, good luck with that. I'm going to take this footage after I pry it from the grasping hands of the government or get it corroborated from the government that doesn't want to corroborate it. Remember, they're not going to want to corroborate whatever it is you got. They're going to, he said, she said it to death. Okay. Why were you watching so closely? What were you doing? If you had so much time in your hands, why weren't you doing this yourself? What's your next step? You got a lawyer lined up. You got 50 grand to file suit. They got your tax money to fight you with it. So you dig into your savings and sue them, and then they dig into your savings and sue you back or just defend themselves from you. No attorney's fees if you win. So, if you can't prove some kind of damages, what's your game? Then they'll change. Oh, right. They'll change. How much stuff did we see during COVID? Have they changed? Yeah, they've doubled down. They just don't want kids to learn history. They just don't want kids to learn about the truth. These parents just hate children. They hate the LGBT community. They just hate. They're just hateful bigots. I mean, there's an answer for all of it. So what is the camera exactly accomplishing besides creating a boondoggle for some corporation somewhere that's probably manufacturing crap in China with Chinese software? So the Chinese get the data too. And now it's broken. We got to replace it. Oh, it costs twice as much as if you went out to the local store and bought your camera. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. I think. I don't, like it's a no-brainer. Put cameras in the classroom. And every time I have to say, okay, explain it to me like I'm 5, how it's a no-brainer. Because I have a brain and I've used it to analyze the situation top to bottom, including the budget of it, looking at reality and how things actually function and where the curriculum actually shows up and what teachers actually say. Teachers aren't necessarily, it's a rare time. It's a rare time they are standing in the classroom saying, don't listen to your parents. They're a bunch of fools. We had that one person, remember, in Utah, and she got fired. That's like a unicorn. That almost never happens. I'm almost convinced she wanted to be fired for some reason and have it go down in flames and look at me, the sacrificial lamb for our cause. I have no idea. But that just doesn't happen. Most people go about it much more subtly than that. And then you're going to have to explain, like I sit here and do on my channel. No, see, that's code. And what it really means is this. And you're going to have a judge or somebody going, okay. See, if you believe, as I do, that it's code, that it's BS, that it's wrong, that it's abuse, get your kid out. Because the education you're going to have to do to the judge and the lawyer and the jury and the this and the that, not to mention the blowback on your kid while this is all going on. So, like I said, you see the whole cameras in the classroom and you'll see candidates. You will see candidates for school board. You will see candidates for mayor. You'll see candidates for governor. You will see candidates come fall going, cameras in the classroom, cameras in the classroom. Now, if every other thing that they represent is awesome, go for it, vote for them. But if that's their claim to fame and that's their solution, we're going to watch them like hawks. They don't really understand the problem at all. Like at all. That's That's clickbait. That's just for low info voters, in my opinion. So take it or leave it as far as my opinion goes. Let's see. What does this say? When I was in high school in 2004, they were implementing a screen watcher program on our desktops. It was old text, so a box showed up when you were being watched, and we draw bad stuff on paint for them. Yeah. Well, that brings up an interesting point that I mentioned in yesterday's Dissident Dispatch too. These Chromebooks are accessing VPN, school-based VPN, even when they're in your home. So if you think that your kid is coming home and using your Wi-Fi or your connection to get online and do their homework, probably not, because they probably can't get in that way. That serves two purposes. See, if you don't know the login to the VPN, you can't go looking at what's inside their Chromebook. Not they can look at what's on the Chromebook itself, but that's not what it's designed to do. It's designed to access things through the school's network. That's where it lives. In their Google Classroom or whatever, which I learned the hard way is like only accessible through that. So the kid has the login and you probably don't because it wasn't sent to you. It's given to them in class. Not only that, when they log onto the internet using that, they can access anything they want. It gets right around the parental controls. Now, schools are supposed to set up their own controls, but they'll give you 75 reasons why it's not working, or they've hired a consultant, or they have to keep updating it, or they're not even trying. Okay? They know this is a problem. They're not even trying. Kind of like they know that giving your kids the link to the Trevor Project's message board is going to put your kid in contact with grown-ass adults to talk about their sexuality, even when they're preteens. And that has a kill switch too, where they're like, oh, quickly exit and you'll have no internet history. They know that. The CDC knows that. They still hand it out. So yeah, it's kind of a full-time job to stay on top of this. But that's what they do with the Chromebooks. So the kids getting around the parental controls, they're accessing the internet, doing not homework, going to sites that the school has given them very often that have a quick exit. Parents won't know you were there. And it's around the parental controls. So, I mean, you have to work overtime to deal with this stuff. Let's see what we got. How are we doing?
Does it work?
Yes, I can hear you and I can see you. This is awesome.
Oh my God. I have like 4 computers out. I finally grabbed my kid's Chromebook.
Oh, that's hilarious. Because we were just talking about Chromebooks and how you can just get around anything and everything on this Chromebook.
I know. I had to call down my 13-year-old and like, she's like, Mom, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Help me.
Guys, this is literally the best proof of concept I've ever seen. I'm just now telling them how the Chromebook is like, it can go anywhere. It gets around everything. And you would call your 13-year-old to help you get online to have this show.
Yes. Yeah.
That says a
lot. That really says a lot. That
yes, it does.
I was screaming like, Sarah, help me, please. She's like, Mom, this is so easy.
See, guys? See what we're up against? See what we're up against.
I know. That's what's hard is when you're trying to monitor what they're doing at school, they are smarter than you. So they can, the stories. Here's a really funny one. So I was sitting as part of Moms4Liberty was working with Forward Ozaki, another parent group, and they had this really great therapist come and talk about issues and how parents can navigate social media and technology. And that's like a big issue. So I'm describing all the ways that my kids have, like how I would sleep with my daughter who's now 20. I would sleep with my phones next to my bed and she would sneak in the middle of the night to the point I was having dreams about like waking up because she would come. I would put it under my pillow and she'd try to sneak her hand under the pillow and just like grab it. So
that also points to how parents underestimate the level of addiction.
Oh yeah. And
these
then,
advice. It's not that they're bad kids. They're addicted, like little drug
well,
addicts. Yeah.
they are. And then, so he said that this was the best one. So when I was telling him like how frustrated we've been, we actually have 4 safes around our house where we keep iPads and phones, and we're always misplacing because and to the point where you have to hide handheld gaming devices because they can go on the internet through anything. They know how to get on YouTube through everything. So he said his son had wired cameras in their house, like security cameras in their house, to watch the parents log in, and he zoomed in and he figured out the password. And like, so he was like, part of me was impressed with how smart he was, but it's just, that's the level that he was willing to go just to find the password so he could log in to play Xbox. So I was like, well, I feel better because my kids, here's the funny one. I was grabbing my 6-year-old daughter's phone, and suddenly up pops my credit card, Apple Wallet. And I'm like, how's my credit card on your phone? And she kind of sheepishly, well, I needed to get something, and I just figured out she figured out when I had put my phone down and I didn't lock it right away, she went on. And she's like, I was just ordering, I just had to order some shampoo, and I thought it would be fine. Yeah. So, and I have really good kids. They're really honest once I catch them, but yeah,
but it does tell you the level of it. Okay. So let's back up. Everybody, this is Scarlett.
Hi, everybody. Yeah.
So here's what I've been talking about. And then, we can go over it. So I talked about how you were running for school board. I talked about how previously on this channel, I have said, waste of time, but then I changed my mind and explained that there's value in running because you have a platform during your campaign. There's value in running because if you're willing to put up with the hell of being on the school board, there are certain things that you can do and so forth. But then I explained what you can't do and blah, blah, blah. And then, but I also said that I feel pretty strongly that everybody who, taxpayers as well, not just, people with kids, has skin in this game, and that we have to find some kind of little way, even if it's just sharing out, educational broadcasts like, this or your content or whatever, to try to help educate other parents, help educate, teachers who mean well, things like that, that just finding a way to do something as a force multiplier, because the people we're fighting against have very deep pockets. They have so much money, they have so much power, and it's really tough to fight. I said, I don't think that unions should be allowed to put people on school boards, that there shouldn't be union members there. They shouldn't be allowed to fund campaigns. So, those are the things I've talked about. OPS, I did about 10 minutes opposing cameras in the classroom because of some of the stuff you're talking about, that like, well, now we're surveilling the kids instead of solving the problem, and they're going to get around it anyway, and all this kind of stuff. So back to you. Tell your story.
Oh yeah, that's a long story, but I was at a great event last night with the Herzog Foundation, and the title was Empowering Parents, and I'm really obviously interested in empowering parents and supporting parental rights, and that's why I'm working with Moms4Liberty. And so my origin story, obviously it started COVID, and although I was involved, Common Core briefly, I was involved in going to school board meetings, and I did talk to my school board, but that obviously our district, Wisconsin, Tony Evers, they were all on board for Common Core. And when I started to see what was happening, I started to pull some of my younger kids out and put them in private school, but my older kids stayed in middle school and high school. And we once had a great, FYI, we did have a really good high school that was almost like a college prep. My son's in medical school now. And if you were in the gifted and talented program or taking AP, it was a very good school. But he often says it was like a 2-tier school. There was, if you were in, honors and AP classes, it was one level of school, and then general ed, it was like your typical public school. And now the whole school, they've pretty much abandoned AP classes, honors classes in light, and they are embracing equity and equitable solutions. And we had an equity audit and all of that stuff. So we have seen drastic declines in our numbers. As hard as our Department of Education tries to hide it, they fudge numbers, they change metrics. We still don't have our data as far as college preparatory testing, and so there's a bunch of little schemes where they try and put the rosiest picture, and you know this well. But I ran first I started a recall, but there was a year prior to that recall where, here's the funny thing, when all of us parents got together, so they shut down schools. It's mid-August, and we're crying. Like, I can't believe our district is shutting down schools. You know, we're in a suburban district outside of Milwaukee. We were guaranteed if we passed this referendum, there was going to be the money to open the schools, and they were going to have mitigation, and it was all going to be fine. Well, they shut down the schools, citing public health, and they created this barrier where basically there had to be 0 COVID cases in the entire in our entire district. If there was 3 COVID cases, they were shutting down the whole school. So we put, there was a call to action just on Facebook. Hey, if you're a parent upset, let's meet. And we were meeting at a restaurant in Thiensville outside. And gosh, I would say 65 or 70 parents showed up. I was one of them, and I had my iPad and a notebook, and everyone was looking around kind of for a leader. So I just stood up and said, okay, here's why we're here. What are we going to do now? Who's going to, organize this? And they're all like, you have the pad of paper.
We pick you.
Like a good person. So I helped, I led with a lot of great moms and dads, and we chatted. The first time we got together, we said, well, as soon as the school board knows that we're upset and we care, they're going to turn this right around. I mean, we truly believed all we had to do was just show up to some school board meetings and write some letters. We had a petition, and we're really organized, a lot of professional parents that were able to do spreadsheets. We had data, we had scientists. I had a mom who's a biologist. We had doctors. My kids, my first husband's orthopedic surgeon. He had we had several doctors write off, and we hand them this 22-page manifesto where this is going to work, and they didn't even read it. I mean, it was just like, no, we're not doing that. And that was the beginning of opening our eyes. Our eyes were opened when we realized it didn't matter what we do, what we said, what experts we cited. They would just point to our then, public health director in Wisconsin, Andrea Palm, who I think has a degree in social work and art history. And she was deciding all of our pandemic policy. And there was just nothing that we could do about it. And we just kept fighting. We kept pushing along, and finally schools did open. We protested. We called media crews. I remember the first time I stood in front of Channel 12 News, and I was literally just shaking, and they pushed me out, and I'm just I'm going to talk, and I'm my voice, I was terrified. I had never done anything like this. But we had a huge turnout, and it was happy. We were really, we wanted to project that our kids were holding signs that we love school, we miss our friends, we love our teachers. It was a really positive environment where we were, even then, we were joyful. We were trying to project how much we support our schools and how much we're willing to do to partner with them. What do you need from us? And
so you weren't, these crazy moms standing there screaming at them and saying,
No.
we're going to end you or anything like that. Like you weren't domestic terrorists?
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that.
Right.
It was so peaceful as moms and grandpas and grandmas and little kids. I have pictures on social media and on our website. Going through the journey, and as I look through them, I remember, and we even wore masks the first protest because we wanted to look like we get it, we care. We just want, if the kids have to wear masks in the beginning, that's fine. But it was way worse than that. what we came to find out, kids one-way hallways, kids walking around holding trifold, plexiglass. They were facing the walls while they were eating. In my opinion,
this is like medieval.
I felt like if you're going to make us open, well, we're going to make your kids pay. I feel like it was almost this vengeful. They looked at the kids like a disease. They looked at them like an infection. Stay away. And you know what in-person classes meant in Mequon-Thiensville? And I know that this was true across the country. It meant they would shove, let's say, 60 kids, like a whole entire 7th grade class in one big room, and there's a screen and the teacher's on the screen. He or she's in another room. So in-person meant just virtual. They were just trying to shut us up. It did get a little better for high school students because they were able to actually, here's what's better. They were able to be 5 feet, not 6 feet apart because we couldn't come. Yeah.
Full 12 inches?
Little kids can't go on the playground. Imagine little kids, twins. I had friends who had twins who had to be 6 feet apart. And they kept getting written up because these twins would get closer than 6 feet.
Got written up.
Yeah, written up. Yeah.
Okay.
And parents called, like, your kids they need to follow. It was like, follow the rules, follow the rules. I can't tell you how many times we had moms with special needs kids come. They would cry and sob as they're talking to school boards. My child misses, they have speech delay. They have to see a face. Autistic kids often just couldn't go to school because they couldn't keep that mask on. That, they have an aversion to how that feels. It was just heartbreaking. I hate to eat. When I think back, I feel like, oh my gosh, that was a traumatic experience. And I at least was home breathing free air, living my life. My children, I felt I'm sending them to, a juvenile detention center. And I was just full of guilt. And I tried to move some around to different schools that had better mitigation policies, that we were just scrambling. Many just started to homeschool because, frankly, their kids, the quarantine. Oh my gosh, the quarantine. So I have 5 kids. One of mine then they all are home. So the one that was exposed, that's 14 days. All the rest are like 21 to 26 days for each one. It's
like a revolving door. I mean, just, you're in, you're out, in, you're out. Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. Now that you've been to the summit, the Moms4Liberty summit, you've heard James Lindsay, you've heard, different people speaking about different topics related to ESG and SEL and so forth. Do you look back on these days with the forced masking and the weird behaviors and the giant screen teacher while all the kids are crammed in one room? And do you see it differently? Because I do. I feel like it was all along conditioning, that the entire thing wasn't about health at all, but it instead was about conditioning these children to tolerate certain things and sorting them. And not just sorting them, but sorting them and their parents into who are the compliant little collectivists willing to do all this stuff and even defend it, and who are the ones who are going to be thorns in our side and make it difficult for us. Oh, look, there they are. Because you're going to have people who sort into groups. I'm not saying the school board per se knew about that. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm saying in terms of policies being handed down, to influence them and then going to the unions and different things, I'm thinking about the overall picture of what they're trying to accomplish with the community school, right?
Yes.
With SEL, with a lot of these things. It seems to fit rather nicely. Think of the group, not of yourself. Be willing to inconvenience yourself. Don't think of your own comfort. Think of other people's comfort. But it's really important that you be comfortable if you're in this kind of a group or that kind of a group. I mean, these confusing follow the rules.
I think that that is an interesting perspective, and teaching kids to follow rules. I look at it as, I realize it's come to Jesus moment. I realize that a lot of administrators and people in education do not have the best interests of children in mind, and they actually don't even seem to like children. That's what was made clear to me, that education to them just wasn't about the child anymore. It was just a profession, and I saw a lot of selfishness, instead of kind of selflessness. And lots of times before all this, educators were revered, and brownies and cookies, and let's do everything we can. We love our teachers. And
Right.
and I'm not saying that we don't love our teachers, but boy, did I look
I'll say it. I'm kidding. We
sure
love some of them. Some of them we
Yeah.
love. Lots of them, not so much.
I come from a military family, and you didn't get to, so if you're really in a job where you're in that position, like you're a military member, you have to show up. You don't have a choice, because you have a greater calling. Educating children is very important. It's a calling. That's what I was told for years anyway.
Yeah.
However, suddenly it just wasn't anymore. Well, I gotta do me. I gotta think about myself. And then you see what I believe was discovered is that we have an opportunity to get a whole lot of money. This is a way for us through ESSER and to get billions and billions of dollars. And these desperate parents, they used our kids as pawns. You want schools open? Well, we can't do it till we get this funding. We need more money and more money. And that was really sickening to see unions use our kids as pawn. And didn't they recently just say they wanted to reinstitute mask mandates, and they wanted to mandate vaccines, and they have a whole list of demands that they wish, if their wish list were able to be passed, schools like big districts like MPS, they'd be shut down all over again. And think about that. That is our biggest school in our district. I believe it's fourth. It's ranked fourth as far as spending per pupil. So huge budget, dismal, absolutely dismal proficiency scores. And they serve a majority population that is impoverished or at the poverty line, or slightly above it. So those are the kids that have been completely left behind by COVID. They had truancy rates that were off the charts. Many of those kids didn't come back to school when they reopened. They couldn't even keep track.
Disappeared.
They're gone. And they were 15, 16 years old, think about it. They were sophomores. They didn't go back to school.
Right.
So it's a tragedy. It's child abuse, what happened to children. I'll never forget it. And I know Dr. Jay Bhattacharya had just responded on Twitter to someone who's saying, past is the past, we have to move forward. No. Oh, there needs to be some accountability so it never happens again. I mean, millions of dollars of damage, the psychological damage, the futures, the money, the income loss of generations of kids, and the psychological damage, which rolls us right into what we're dealing with now with SEL. Kids, especially teenage girls, and I experienced this because I had 4 girls, and one was preteen and 2 were teenagers. This was devastating for teenage girls, the lack of social interaction for so long. And boy, now look at what we're seeing. Read or listen to Abigail Schreier. Cutting, bulimia, anorexia, anxiety, depression, suicide, and now they are a group that I think by 4,000% increase in identifying as girls that now identify as boys, and they're just uncomfortable in their bodies.
Or just as something other than they are,
Yes.
from queer to trans to non-binary to whatever. I wanted, the reason I was like freaking out when you were saying, people were saying that's in the past, we got to move on. Kids are resilient, right?
Oh,
It makes me so
oh,
angry because these are the same people. These are the same people collectively blaming certain groups of people
mhm.
and actually citing something called epigenic memories. They're doing guilt by association. Oh, you look like this. That means you owe the people who look differently than you or because of history. And no, we can't put it in the past. And your desire to talk about it as history, not as it's still ever present, like nothing's improved, proves that you're a bad person, that you don't want to let it go. You want your own comfort. You've got to sit with your discomfort and all this kind of stuff. And meanwhile, in the next breath, they're resilient. But the smallest thing, they commented on her hairstyle. That's traumatic. That person, that was a microaggression. That's trauma.
Oh, yes.
Trauma. All these little
Mhm.
tiny slights that when we were kids, it was like, our parents would tell us, let it slide, let it roll off your back. It's sticks and stones. That's nobody. Kids are mean. What do you expect? Blah, blah, blah. Right now it's like, oh my God, bullying, trauma, suspend the kid. They use the wrong pronouns. That's
Oh, yeah.
traumatic. But
Oh,
masking,
more than suspend them. In Kiel, mispronouncing, 2 kids were formally charged with sexual harassment. They were 12, or was it 3? 3 boys formally charged with sexual harassment. Kiel, Wisconsin, mind you, is a tiny town in Wisconsin that voted majority for Trump. It is a conservative town. And this superintendent and board, they went along with it. Imagine you're a mom getting a call. Your 8th grade son just turned 13, is being charged with sexual harassment. And she said, what did he do? Oh my gosh, what could have happened? He called a girl a she, and she had they, them pronouns. So they were committing atrocities. And so the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty had to take on that case and represent those boys. And those charges were dropped, but they weren't dropped even immediately. They fought back. They fought back. And now what's happening with Title IX, Biden is going to put that everywhere, where if our kids mispronoun, they can get expelled. And if they're old enough, formally charged with sexual harassment.
Well, luckily, he doesn't have the power to do that.
Yes.
And let's hope that they cracked it, because he doesn't, just like the federal government doesn't have the power to set, a federal curriculum standard. They're trying to sneak it in under Title IX, but that does not even come close to being anything that Title IX was created for, or is meant to do. That's not his purview. It's not even the purview of the Department of Education to say that. That's interfering with state law. It's interfering. You don't get to just make new federal law from the Oval Office. You don't get to do that. Then you don't get to attach it to new.
If they had the power, oh my gosh.
Well, it's us giving it to them, because the problem is people don't know what separation of powers are, and they already are violating the federalism, and they are allowed to do it because nobody knows, because we're not teaching anybody anything. This is really good. I just want to show this real quick. Best response when they use resilience as a defense for lockdowns, brightly proclaim. That's true. So can we abolish safe spaces now?
Well,
can we go back to mispronouncing people?
Why should kids have to be, again, so doesn't this go back to that kids should be shouldering adult problems? Why should kids be resilient? There's teachers, crying, oh my gosh, my first graders misgendered me. Or teachers that basically have therapy sessions with their 3rd grade class, like, hey, let's talk about my date. Oh my gosh. Or, my gosh. So they're putting adult burdens on small children and saying, be resilient, except for they are snowflakes that can't handle, they can feel the pee of oppression under 1,000 mattresses. Everything is interpreted as oppression, because we live in the era of the oppression Olympics, and whoever is the most oppressed wins. And, that's why I'm Hispanic. My background is, I was born into poverty. My mom was 14 when she had me. My dad was a gang member who was in and out of juvenile detention. He joined the Marines, changed his life. They were great parents who taught me to love this country. They never let me use our income status, the color of my skin, anything. I was never allowed to use that as an excuse. This was the greatest country. I had all the opportunities before me. I might have to work harder. Yes, Scarlett, you're gonna have to work harder, but that's gonna make you a better person, a stronger person, and an actually more resilient person as I learned to overcome obstacles at an age appropriate manner, in that kind of manner. So, but so they would love me. I would have walked on that board if I was a leftist demanding that kids be masked and vaxxed and that they just sit in their rooms and on their bed and learn that way because it's just safe. And if I would have done that, they would have welcomed me with open arms. They would love, oh, we've got a Hispanic woman. Look at us. Aren't we great? But because I defied their narrative, they, of all the four, because we did win our recall. We collected over 18,000 signatures, and it was hard, but it was fun. We 12-hour days, whatnot. But when we had the special election, and of the four of us running, I was the only minority candidate. They zeroed in on me like white on rice. It was pretty much the I Hate Scarlett show, and they criticized everything about me, how I looked, how I dressed, how I spoke, everything. It was
so mature. Such great role models to be in charge of anything to do with education.
Yeah, it was in the beginning. I'm like, I'm trying not to cry. I'm okay. Because they're criticizing even my hair, the way I look, my makeup, the clothes I was wearing. She's just really tan. I'm not even sure she's Hispanic.
Oh my God.
That was a teacher who said that. Mm-hmm. Like
she's just really tan.
She's just really tan. So she got reprimanded.
I'm just.
Yeah, she's not a real minority. Well, of course I'm not. I'm white adjacent because I don't drink the Kool-Aid, but they have a special vitriol. I have a lot of friends that are, especially like Adam Coleman. Markel is Adam Coleman, a Black libertarian. He's not even a conservative, but he speaks truth, and he and I become really good friends. And he's at Wrong Speak. He's such a great guy and such a great speaker and writer now. He's written a book. He writes for Newsweek and I think for New York Post. But he gets attacked, and the more he grows in popularity, the more he gets attacked. And there was a Black school board member, young guy, nicest guy in the world that was just elected, and they attacked him with such vitriol. He contacted me several times, like, how did you get through this? I've never been attacked like this. They're calling me a white supremacist. He's like, I'm Black. I don't understand this. And he's a teacher too. So he's a teacher and he's an uncle. And he just said, this is wrong. I need to stand up for my.
We have to listen to Black voices until they say things we don't want to hear. And then we shout them down and tell them they're bad. This is, you would think that people see it so clearly, but it's like we have to keep pointing it out. Yeah. And so now you're running, and you're running for your local school board, right?
Oh, I already did. We had, I ran again.
Oh, so you April. Ran, yes, and you lost that bid.
I lost.
Okay,
but that comes to what you said. I knew that it was myself and another woman that were sort of the education reform candidates. My message, we ran separately, but we had similar messages. But my message was really just about parents as partners, parent and teacher partnerships. It was a very non-political message focused on academic excellence and rigor and addressing academic loss. I had several teachers that supported my campaign, several retired teachers that advised me. I had a whole team of educators that helped me prepare for if I was giving a speech, and flyers that I put out. We did, I can show you, we did so much research. We had policy briefs with statistics. We laminated. It was amazing. Like all the things we did to put
that lives on. That's the beauty of this. That's
So
what I was telling people is like, if there's
yeah.
one good thing to doing it, it's what you're showing.
Yeah, I mean, like what you want to see, what did critical race theory look like in our district? Well, here, parents defending education, going the wrong way. We paid $42,000 just for one day of equity training. And here's an example, the racism scale. How racist are you? You know, if you live in Mequon-Thiensville, you're definitely racist. You just have to figure out exactly how racist you are. We were advised to read Ibram X. Kendi, White Fragility. He said his favorite philosopher was Paulo Freire. And so as soon as I heard this is when I knew, okay, this was June 2020. And I knew that critical race theory, something I had just heard, I listened to a few James Lindsay podcasts, and I said, gee, that sounds kind of familiar. Is that possibly critical race theory? And then me and many other moms, hundreds of hours researching what's critical race theory. James Lindsay came to speak many times in Wisconsin. We listened to a lot of lectures. I listened to a lot of your podcasts actually over the last.
Thank you.
Especially because SEL became a new topic, but and it gave us a lot of insight. And we actually read board policy. We learned how things work. We keep getting portrayed as toothless buffoons who just, no mask. That's not true. This is what we did. We had statistics, we had scorecards, we had status quo reports. We put together PowerPoint presentations. We put together policy briefs. I mean, our website, they accused us, they were, how much was your website? That clearly was a professional. No, that was me and a few other parents and our kids. We went on GoDaddy. Okay, we learned. We did this. So you learn so much. I've taken away so much from this. And my second campaign, I said to myself as I was embarking on it, I'm most likely going to lose. I'm going to try really hard. And for a moment, you think you have a chance because you never see the other side out. They're never doing doors. We're going door to door. We're having coffees. We're talking all the time. We're active on social media. They're in hiding. The people running against us are basically in hiding like Joe Biden. You know, they're in their basement somewhere and they come out every once in a while and then they go away. So you think, hey, maybe this time, there's so much support, but they have a machine and they're able to kind of get their people out at the end. But I had a platform and I live rent-free in my school board member's head. I really do. Every time I put out a post, they're responding to it, or their minions are responding to it. Everything I say, they follow me. It's almost like stalker-like behavior, the way that they follow me. And I'm fine with that because I'm exposing them. They're obsessed with me. I'm not obsessed with them. They're obsessed with me. They're like, where is she? What's she gonna do next? I just exposed their racist pizza party. They, in the end of May, had a segregated pizza party in Stephan Middle School. The principal data mined our information, where we get all the surveys, where we put them. It's called the Infinite Portal in Mequon-Thiensville. Data mined it, looking for African American students. So in particular, 8th grade African American students, sent emails only to those students, to their student accounts, saying, well, hello, best and brightest, and used language that basically all of their worth came from the color of their skin. Like, you're the best and brightest, you're special, you're unique. We're gonna have a pizza party only for you so that you can share your experiences. And so that email went out, but some kids are biracial. Some kids aren't marked as Black on the Infinite Portal because maybe they have a white mom, or so some kids weren't invited. And we were able to open record request that whole email chain. And so this principal had talked to the superintendent, talked to the high school principal. They're DELT, so that's our district equity leadership team. They were, oh, this is such a wonderful idea. This is so inclusive. It's so diverse and inclusive. Do you have a pizza party for only Black 8th grade students? And it turned out to be, so some kids, that was sent to us, the email. It eventually was sent to us, and then we were able to do the open records request. And I was infuriated. The mom who contacted me has a biracial child, and she was so upset because the conversations that they had to have and how guilty he felt because his best friend was white and his friend wasn't invited. And he asked if his friends could be invited. And you can see on the email text chain, well, does your friend meet the criteria? Meaning, if you're white, no, they're not invited. So
But we strive to create an inclusive and welcoming classroom
Yes.
where every child belongs.
Yeah.
Every child feels a sense of belonging. We strive to have a culturally responsive, inclusive, and belonging. Blah, 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 blah. Liars, 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 liars,
Yes.
liars. Everything they say is the inverse of what they actually do.
This was the principal's woke pet project. This was her virtue signal. She probably, I don't want to get in trouble, but there are reasons why an educator would want to kind of experiment and ask some questions and write down some notes. What are they, no parents were invited. Parents weren't invited. This is her and these kids.
Which is creepy also.
Yes. And the kids, the way it was described to me, that kids wanted to leave. They got their pizza and they wanted to go, but they had to stay, and it was really awkward and weird, and they felt uncomfortable, and they felt single.
Were there like shower heads in the ceiling? I'm kidding. I mean, this is getting to that level of creepy.
They're teaching kids to see race after such a long struggle. My parents, my mom will tell you that, she was a Spanish speaking child. Okay. She didn't even know English. There was a time where she did experience racism and discrimination, and it was very real. And I have family members that experienced that, and we've come a long way. And now those same family members are looking at where we are at now, and they're more and more conservative because the Democrat Party I should say more, leftism and wokeism doesn't represent them or their values. They are displacing families. And I think, education should be a partnership, right? But now there is this status misguided view that parents are the problem and public schools are the solution.
Yes.
And I find that really haunting. And that's the message that we have to keep spreading, because you can't look to the schools anymore as your partner, that they have the best interest of you or your children, or they value you. They don't. They see you as the problem. They often use the term co-conspirator. In DPI, so Wisconsin, they have their professional development, their equity training, their consultants. We have, I believe, 70 DEI consultants on staff in the DPI. No one really knows what they do. I was just told that by a state senator from Wisconsin, because he's for years tried to, have them answer requests, and they just go unanswered. It's sort of like it's the Ministry of Truth, but not truth. Ministry,
but not truth. It's the Ministry of, it's just propaganda ministry.
Yeah, it is. It's a propaganda machine, and they bring in people from San Francisco, from Portland, to come and give lectures, and they use the term co-conspirator. And I often tell parents, like, who do you think they're conspiring against? You.
Exactly.
They're conspiring against
And
you.
then even if they'll say, oh, society or whatever. Scarlett, I am so sad that we didn't have more time to talk today, but I have
Yes.
a show at the top of the hour. So,
Okay.
what is your kind of, when you'll come back, right? You'll come
Yeah.
back. We'll
Oh, I
talk
would
more.
love to. I feel like I have all these notes and I didn't even like touch.
I know. We'll do this again, you guys. We will
Yeah.
we will do this again. We'll go into more what she had to say. We just had to work out the little technical bugs. So in the meantime, consider it sort of like a little other show with some Scarlett. But what would you say is, can you give parents some, just some parting tips, or like, what are the things they're probably not doing now because they don't realize they need to do it, that they should be doing in your opinion?
Okay. They should, number one is just stay engaged, stay involved. We need you, because a lot of the things the information that I'm showing you, I could span the camera, all the data that we have, that was from parents. That was from ordinary parents that started to do the research and started to go through board docs. The reason why Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty and other legal organizations are able to bring cases forward, which are advancing our cause, because of parents, because parents spoke up, parents do a lot of the legwork, and we shine a spotlight and are able to put test case forward that are able to make, at least, we have to care about public education, because no matter what we do, there's going to be a large segment of kids at this time that are in public education, and we can't just let them go off the edge of a cliff. That if you have a pulse, you have to care about the children, and they don't have the capacity to resist or fight back as they are being indoctrinated. As, like, for example, as in Wauwatosa, as this guy is talking to first graders, not about nouns, but asking about my pronouns and having the difficult conversations about pronouns with first graders, instead of teaching them to read, they don't even know what a noun is. Most of those kids probably cannot read, okay? They can't read at all, or maybe they read at a K3 level, yet they can sing songs about their pronouns. And so you have to care, because this is your future. If you don't have children, if you don't have grandchildren, and you're even in your early 20s, you just care, because these are the people that'll eventually be the tax base. They will be the future leaders. They will be your future employees. They will be the future builders. And if they can't add
Of the bridges that fall down when you drive over.
They're going to build the bridges. I mean, who wants to hire? If I'm hiring someone, I have some reconstruction of my house. If they think 2 + 2 is 5, I really would rather they don't fix my roof. Who wants to fly in an airline that says we put diversity first? You want competency to be first. And don't tell kids, black or brown or whatever, that they don't have the capacity to learn. They do. I am living proof of it. I am living proof that you can be born into poverty. You can be a person of color, and you have the capacity to learn. It was all in me. Did I have to work a little harder? Sure. It made me who I am. It made me the person that's able to battle school districts, and, as my kids say, slay all day. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. Stay engaged, you guys.
Be
like Scarlett.
Stay engaged and fight, and be informed, and just believe us, because why on earth, why would I be here? There's no monetary gain for this. In fact, this has every parent I know that's involved in this, it's tens of thousands of dollars of our own personal money that was put into recalls. We funded most of this. There is no dark money. If anyone could let me know, I could sure use it. We could use it for a good reason.
So dark, I can't see it. Where is it?
I know, where is it? Because I have there are a ton of great initiatives I could fund with that dark money. But no, there's nothing for us to gain. We aren't tools of the Republican Party. We run around trying to kick the Republican Party into gear. Okay, like we are truly a grassroots organization, and partisan politics has nothing to do with what's happening. This crosses those boundaries. The indoctrination of our kids and the subjugation of our children and the relegation of them to this status of, they just didn't even care. Now
and turning parents into enemies.
They wanted to ignore them, and now they just want to indoctrinate them, and they are using classrooms as an incubator by which they can create little social justice warriors so they can settle all the scores and be sure, a guy like Trump is never elected again. I don't know. They seem to really go off the deep end after 2016. They can't even hold back anymore. Right. They don't even have the self-awareness to just keep this. They're on TikTok every day. Look at me. It's the look at me crowd. Look at me. They can't even be quiet about it. They are such ideologues. They are such, cultists, that they just want to spread the good news of this terrible ideology to everyone. And we have to fight it. If you oppose religion in a public school classroom, oppose woke, because it's a religion. They seek to come after your kids. They want to separate and put a wedge between parents and children, and then they want to create new glitter families.
No, but you're right. You're so right. So you will come back.
Yes.
Because I just feel like the worst person in the world that I have to cut you off.
No. It's fine.
I've got another one. Everybody, top of the hour, I'll be back with Mars, and we're going to talk about gender. So hopefully y'all can join for that. It's going to be interesting. Mm-hmm. But please follow Scarlett. She's Scarlett for the number 4 kids on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And
my website is Moms4Liberty.ozaki.com. And then the Moms for Liberty organization is moms4liberty.org. And if you don't have a chapter, you can start one.
Yes, you can.
Go to that website, and you will be in contact with fabulous women. And I just recruited a dad that I think he's going to be a chapter chair in Wisconsin. And he's a former school board member. And he said, well, I'm a guy. And I'm like, you're a Papa Bear. Come on.
Yep. Exactly. I actually saw quite a few dads at the summit. So we need the dads too. We need parents.
We need
parents.
We need the
caregivers, grandparents, everybody. All right, Scarlett.
We need you.
Yeah.
You're willing to stand up and fight for kids.
Exactly. Even quietly behind the scenes.
Yes. Or
like me, loudly behind the scenes. I'm kidding.
Maybe not loud like me. We need people to do the research. There's so much research to do. We need those people that love to go down the rabbit holes. I mean, what it's like to go on board of it's like click this, and soon you're like, oh my gosh, and
then you need a shower.
We need people to write open records requests. We need lawyers. We need people that can sift through, data. There's so many ways. You don't have to be in front if you're uncomfortable. If you don't like social media, if you're uncomfortable in front of a camera, there's so many different ways that you can help. And who knows? Eventually, you may get fired up enough that you suddenly do feel comfortable speaking out more. And that's what happens. Courage is a habit. Courage is contagious, and it's spreading like wildfire. And we're going to take this country back, and it's a marathon, but we're going to fix this problem.
We're not giving up. We're not going quietly is the point.
We're not going quietly into that dark night. Absolutely not.
No. So everybody follow Scarlett, check back. We will have her back soon, I promise. And we will get all of our technical issues worked out. It happens,
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Scarlett. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Have a great day. Bye.
Take it easy. Bye, everybody.